24th, 2024 meeting of the Lee County Zoning Board of Appeals to order. Would you please call the roll?
Bruce Forrester,
Present.
Craig Burrow,
Here.
Mike Pratt,
Here.
Rex Meyer,
Present.
Luke Phelan,
Here.
There is no previous meeting minutes for this meeting at this time, so that we'll move on. And then there is no motion to adjourn for a previous on the county board. So the first thing on business for tonight is an old business petition number 24-P-1622. Irish Eyes Farm LLC as owner of a certain real property identified as PIN number 16-01-13-100-001 and 16-01-14-200-003 located alongside of Pilgrim Road, approximately 0.15 miles east of Illinois Route 26 and approximately 1.72 miles west of Lowell Park Road in Palmyra Township, Lee County, Illinois. Filed a petition for a special use permit with the Lee County Zoning Office, requesting it be granted a special use permit for the property, which is zoned as Ag 1 Agricultural District, to allow for the construction and operation of a 5 megawatt commercial solar energy facility known as a CSEF. At this time, I would like to follow protocol and make a motion that we turn the meeting over to our facilitator, Tim Zollinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. My name is Tim Zollinger. I'm an attorney and partner in the law firm Ward, Murray, Pace & Johnson, and I have the privilege of being the hearing facilitator for this petition, identified as petition 2024 P-1623. Petition of Woosung Solar LLC for a special use permit to develop a proposed 5 megawatt commercial solar energy facility. I want to talk a little bit for the record of my role and the purpose of the hearing. My role is to facilitate the hearing and assist the board with considering the evidence and the relevant legal standards. I am not an advocate for the petitioner or an advocate for the county. It is my job to be neutral, being here to assist the process, organization, and when necessary, the flow of the proceedings. It is my job to rule on any objections to the admissibility of information or evidence, but I would note that the strict rules of judicial proceedings are not applicable. However, objections can be made and will be addressed as necessary. During the hearing, we are a technological society. If you can silence your mobile device, place them on airplane mode. It's always a little awkward when a phone rings in the middle of a hearing. The proceedings this evening are being taken down by our court reporter. I ask that all parties do their best to follow certain rules. Please talk clearly and in a manner the reporter can hear you. There are microphones available when needed. Please do not interrupt or talk over others. If I ask you to pause for a moment, there's a reason. Please pause and allow me to address the point and issue. Every person or party will be given an opportunity to speak, so please let others speak without interruption. They'll do their best to afford you the same. And again, in making any comments or offering questions, please be respectful. If you have a point of objection, please direct it to my attention and I'll address it in appropriate fashion. So for purposes of the record, could we identify those present, starting with each member of the zoning board?
Mike Pratt,
Bruce Forster.
Craig Burrow,
Luke Phelan,
Rex Meyer.
And now with respect to the county officials present, if you could each identify yourself.
Alice Tinkle, zoning administrator,
Stephanie Sasser, Assistant State's Attorney.
And on behalf of the petitioner.
Connor Sales, Richard Kilborn.
And do we have any interested observers here this evening that wish to be identified for purpose of participation? There are none in the courtroom, and we are online, and there are none online. Tonight, the process will be the petitioner has the burden of proof, but we will start the hearing with the zoning officer making introductory comments and statements. Once completed, the zoning officer will proceed with presentation of any exhibits or witnesses if necessary, as well as documents to be submitted for consideration. Once the zoning officer has been presented as a witness, the petitioner may ask the zoning officer any questions. If the members of the zoning board have questions or any county official has questions, they will be permitted to ask them as well. There are no interested observers this evening, but had they been present, they would be permitted to ask any questions of the witness. Upon completion of the zoning officer administrator's witnesses and documents, petitioner can make any opening comments or statement that they wish to make. Following that, the petitioner will proceed with any witnesses. Any witnesses that testify tonight will be sworn in. So they will come forward to the chairman, be sworn in under oath, and then come up here to the, see, I better put a chair over there, the witness stand, and present their testimony from there. Once their testimony is completed, the members of the zoning board may ask them questions if needed or preferred. If there are no questions from the zoning board, the zoning administrator could ask questions if desired. A county official may ask questions as well. Once that portion is concluded, if the zoning officer or any county official has any additional or rebuttal evidence, they can present it. And the same process would follow in terms of examination of witnesses and each party getting an opportunity to ask questions as they desire. Is there any question on the process to be followed tonight from the members of the zoning board? Record reflect no questions from the zoning board. Petitioner, do you have any questions? All right, I see two shakes of a head no. So the record reflect no questions from the petitioner. Does the zoning administrator have any questions?
None, thank you.
County officials? None. All right, this evening we will follow the process and standards set forth by county ordinance. This ordinance provides in relevant part as follows, and they're labeled hearing factors. The county board may approve a commercial solar energy facility special use permit application if it finds that the evidence complies with state and federal law and regulations and with the standards of the zoning code, including the factors listed below. We'll mention those in a minute. The factors below are applied as a balancing test. They are not individual requirements that obligate a petitioner to meet each portion of the test. They are a series of factors that are balanced against one another. The factors are, number one, the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the commercial solar energy facility will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare. Two, the commercial solar energy facility will not be injurious to the uses and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish and impair property values of surrounding properties. Three, the establishment of the commercial solar energy facility will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of the surrounding properties. Four, adequate public utilities, access roads, drainage, and/or necessary facilities have been or will be provided. Five, adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide ingress and egress so designed to minimize traffic congestion on the public streets. Six, the proposed commercial solar energy facility is not contrary to the objectives of the current comprehensive plan of the county, if any are relevant. Seven, the commercial solar energy facility shall, in all other respects, conform to the applicable regulations of the county ordinance and the zoning district in which it's to be located, except as such regulations may in each instance be modified pursuant to the recommendations of and approved by the county board. Finally, the ordinance provides that the county board may stipulate conditions, guarantees, and restrictions upon the establishment, location, construction, maintenance, and operation of the commercial solar energy facility as are deemed necessary for the protection of the public interest and to secure compliance with the standards and requirements of the county ordinance. Members of the zoning board have any questions or questions regarding the relevant ordinance and the process to be followed under that ordinance? Record reflect none. Petitioner?
No.
None. Any questions from the zoning administrator or the county?
No, thank you.
Record reflect none. So at this point, we are going to start with the zoning administrator. So if she can come forward, be sworn in.
Solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony Thank you.
Would you state your name, please,
Alice Hinkle,
and your position with the county,
zoning administrator,
and for how long have you held that role?
since January 3rd,
And prior to that time, how are you employed?
as the renewable energy coordinator for Lee County,
And for how long?
approximately 3 years.
And in the capacity you have held with the county, both currently and previously, were you familiar with the process and requirements of the ordinance relevant to solar energy facilities?
Yes,
Did you receive a petition from Woosung Solar LLC in this matter?
yes,
Do your usual and customary duties include reviewing and processing of those petitions?
yes,
Did you do so in this case?
I did.
Was the petition complete?
Yes,
And did you review it to make sure there were no missing documents?
yes,
And compare the documents provided by the petitioner with the requirements of the county code?
yes.
And could you describe the process you followed relevant to the public hearing and notice that's required by the county?
Notice follows the state statute. I don't have it in front of me. We have to provide notice 15 days in advance to the municipality within 1.5 miles, which there was none for this, adjacent landowners. And we also post the sign at the property sites.
So in this case, was notice sent to the adjacent landowners?
Yes,
And was notice sent to any other governmental parties or bodies?
yes.
Could you describe whom?
District 4 county board members, the Lee County Health Department, the Lee County Highway Department, Lee County Soil and Water Conservation District, Palmyra Township Supervisor, and Palmyra Township Road Commissioner.
And you indicated that notice of the hearing was posted along the
Yes,
property?
yes.
Where was it posted?
On the northern property line of both parcels involved, immediately north along the boundary line.
And were agendas posted for the public hearing?
Yes.
And when were those posted? Or maybe I could ask it differently. For what dates was an agenda prepared and made available to the public?
Agenda was posted for April 4th, April 17th, April 24th, and May 1st. There was a posting issue with the April 17th date.
And was that date stricken?
Yes, the petition remained in recess until tonight.
And in addition to those notices and agendas, was a publication made?
Yes,
Where was it made?
the Dixon Telegraph.
And what type of publication was made? Notice of public hearing?
Yes,
And were there certified mailing receipts collected for all mailing that were required?
yes.
Does the zoning administrator have an exhibit list she wishes to offer?
Yes.
And what are those exhibits?
Exhibit 1 is a copy of the petition for special use permit filed February 28, 2024. The second exhibit is a copy of the notification letters that were mailed to the District 4 county board members, Lee County Health Department, Lee County Highway Department, Lee County Soil and Water Conservation District, Palmyra Township Supervisor, and Palmyra Township Road Commissioner. Exhibit 3 is a copy of the agendas for April 4, April 17, April 24, and May 1st, 2024. Exhibit 4 is a copy of the notice of public hearing that was posted along the northern property line of the parcel identified as PIN 1601-13-100-001 and along the northern property line of the parcel identified as PIN 1601-14-200-003. Exhibit 5 is a copy of the notice of public hearing a certificate of publication for the Dixon Telegraph, and the certified mailing receipts. Exhibit 6 is a copy of the Lee County Soil and Water Conservation District's Natural Resources Information Report dated October 16, 2018. And Exhibit 7 is a letter of no objection from Palmyra Township dated January 23rd, 2024.
And are you offering those into the record and to be made part of the public hearing in this case?
Yes.
Does the petitioner have any objection to those exhibits?
No objection.
Any member of the zoning board have any concern or objection to the exhibits? Record will reflect none. Ms. Hinkle, could you address exhibit number 6? It has a date of October 16th of 2018, a number of years ago.
Yes. So this petition was actually originally filed back in 2018. At that time, the resource report was done. The special use permit that was granted under that petition did expire, and they resubmitted application. And the Soil and Water Conservation District stated that there hasn't been any significant changes to the land, and therefore it's adequate for this hearing.
All right, thank you. The zoning officer's exhibits will be admitted as part of the record. Did you receive any written comment from that were submitted to the county?
Nothing other than the letter of no objection from Palmyra Township.
Any emails, phone calls, any type of public comment received?
None.
All right. Do members of the zoning board have any questions for the zoning administrator?
What about Woosong? You didn't have to notify him? You heard nothing from him? Is that correct?
That is my understanding.
Other questions from the zoning board? Does the petitioner have any questions for the zoning administrator?
No questions at this time.
County officials?
No questions.
All right. You may step down. Petitioner, it's your case. You may proceed. Please. Go over to the chairman here first to be sworn in.
You solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony brought give need you to sign, print your name. Okay, thank you.
So as a witness, if you could start with your name, title, and I guess your role on behalf of the petitioner.
My name is Connor Sales. I'm a development associate with Solarstone Partners. And as part of my role, I helped file and create this petition on behalf of the company.
I'll turn over here for what you want to offer to the zoning board.
Sounds good. I have a PowerPoint presentation. Wanted to thank Chair Forster and members of the zoning board for your time. I know this is a lot of work to put these on, so we really appreciate the opportunity to present our project. This is the Woosong Solar Farm. As previously discussed, this project's been around for a number of years, but we are at a very advanced stage of interconnection on this project. So we'll get into the construction timeline on this project, but looking to be constructing this project hopefully in the spring of next year with a complete operational project in the fall of 2025 is the timeline that we have laid out. Slide, please. And I guess before I get started, I also wanted to say I'm here with my colleague, Rick Kilborn. He's been in the solar industry for 17 years now, and I've been developing projects for the past 3 years myself. Solarstone, we are a experienced renewable energy developer. We're based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Most of our projects are focused within the Minnesota market as well as Illinois in the past several years. In Illinois, Minnesota and Illinois, we have 16 projects that are currently operational for a capacity of about 69 megawatts. I like to think of a megawatt as having the ability to power between 500 to 1,000 homes. And with the state program here in Illinois, over the next couple of years, we have 17 projects in our pipeline for about 60 megawatts. So between 30 and 60,000 households of power. Community solar is a nationwide effort at this point. So we are also developing within New Mexico, New Jersey, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. One of the kind of bigger projects that we've completed to date was in Minnesota. It was with the Rochester Public Utility and the Mayo Clinic, and that was a 10 megawatt facility that we completed in the spring of 2022. So why Illinois? Why are we all here? Illinois has really done a good job of putting a policy together that is allowing for third-party investment into solar, the communities, and just really making sure that the policy framework works. That state legislature was passed in 2021. We call it CEJA, the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act. And within that, there's $40 million grant program for communities to add local budgets battered by the decline of fossil fuel energy plants. We're seeing that gigawatts of fossil fuel generation within the greater Midwest is going to come offline in the next several years. So there's a huge push for alternate forms of energy to replace that and modernize the grid. This is also, we're seeing a lot of workforce training opportunities. Our company, for example, we're going to be bringing on an intern here in the next few months to help in our development efforts locally, get him trained up on development activities. And we're just seeing a lot of new jobs created here in the Midwest, which is one of the main goals of CEJA. This project, I want to kind of make a distinction. I know this group has seen a lot of community solar projects, but just to reiterate, this is a distribution project with Commonwealth Edison, and it's a community solar facility is the plan here. So the power is delivered to the local grid at the distribution level, not the transmission system. So it's going to stay, all the power is going to stay local, and the project bills the customers for the electricity, and it's purchased at a discounted rate for the subscription. Typical solar equipment, we are going to be using a single axis tracker on this facility. That's pretty standard these days when we do have a site that allows for it, basically a site that is flat enough that we're able to put this sort of equipment. That's going to follow the sun throughout the day, which is going to boost our production and make this a more fruitful site. It does that with sensor technology, and we're going to be using bifacial panels here. We like to use bifacial panels on all of our projects because we do see an uptick in production using the bifacial modules, especially in areas that are going to have snow in the winter. With the snow, we're going to get a lot of reflectivity off of the back end, and we're going to see an uptick even in the winter, which is a pretty good boost for our projects. Next slide, please. I know the Lee County ordinance says that nothing will be above 20 feet. None of the equipment will be. I think most of the time we're seeing between 10 and 12 feet. 12 feet is kind of where our projects stand at a max tilt for our trackers. The ordinance calls for a 6-foot fence. We use a 8-foot cyclone fence around our projects. There's going to be a 4 to 6 inch gap at the bottom for small mammals to come in and out of the facility, so we're not impeding their migration. The site doesn't use any concrete or asphalt, except I will denote there is a small transformer pad at the point of interconnection that transformer will sit on. I believe it's about a 10 by 10 concrete pad that we will be sitting that transformer on top of. But other than that, we are basically driving screws into the ground, and there will be no concrete other than the transformer. This project is going to be using a low-mow ground cover, so we're going to be able to bring crews out maybe 4 to 6 times a year for ordinary maintenance and mowing of the facility. And that's going to be made up of native prairie grasses and pollinator-friendly plantings that are local to the area, making sure that the project is remaining with the character of the land. Next slide, please. So for screening options, this site, we're pretty lucky to be in an area that's a little bit more remote. So there are no participating residents adjacent to the site. So we have a few non-participating residents, and through our work with the county, we've understood that at 541 Pilgrim, we will be putting up a vegetative screening for that household, which is more than 300 feet to the east of the project. We'll be putting up deciduous and coniferous trees to meet all requirements of the ordinance and make sure that we're providing screening for that. There is no participating residents to the north. Palmyra Township said that in part of their letter that they would not like any screening to minimize any snowdrift along the north end. So that on the north, it'll just be the cyclone fence, no screening. And to the west, it is mostly, there are along Highway 52, there's a large number of existing trees. So no further vegetation was required along the southwest. We usually get a lot of questions about the solar panels and the materials. So there are no hazardous materials within the solar panel, according to the US EPA. The main component is silicon, which is going to be your everyday product of silicon sand, which is the main derivative in glass. So our panels, the bifacials, will have the silicon solar cells, aluminum frame, a glass sheet for the casing of the solar cells. We'll be using 12-volt wire, plexiglass, and there is cadmium, which is toxic if ingested, but is also found in household batteries. Next slide, please. This project, we are planning on using string inverters. You can see one in the top right figure. They are a little bit smaller than central inverters that some other projects have used historically. We're kind of starting to see that these are more industry standard, mostly from a maintenance perspective. When we have an issue with a central inverter, it takes off a larger portion of our site. So the string inverter is more of a plug and play option for us. So if one goes down, we see that remotely. It's much easier to roll a truck with a crew of 1 or 2 to go out and fix this central inverter. You're going to have a larger downtime. So we are calling for 20 Selectria 250 kilowatt inverters on this site, mostly along the southwest edge of the facility. As part of the ordinance, we're going to be burying all electrical cable and inside the facility. So there will be no electrical infrastructure that is above ground. And then we will be coming above ground at the point of interconnection to the north on Pilgrim Road, where we will be connecting with the 3-phase distribution network of ComEd. Those inverters are going to convert that DC power that we're producing and then converting it to AC power, which the grid is able to digest and send to the community. As I noted earlier, we do have a transformer pad on that northwest corner where all of the inverters are going to be connected back to. And that transformer basically is going to allow us to step up our voltage to be compatible with the electric grid. So then we can head back onto the highway. Next slide, please. So I usually get asked a lot of questions about how we pick where we're siting our facilities. The number one thing that is obviously the most important for us is having a willing landowner. Here we have Pat and Aaron McHenry have been willing landowner with us since 2018. So we've built a relationship with them over the past few years. And second is the utility constraints. ComEd territory in Northern Illinois, specifically in Lee County, is becoming quite a bit more congested. So this is going to be the last project on this substation for the time being. We're taking up the rest of that capacity at the moment. As part of the program with the state, the entire facility of your solar project has to be within the electrical service territory. So this project is wholly in ComEd's territory. Sometimes we see municipal co-ops intercepting our projects, but this one is 100% ComEd. And we'll be interconnecting at the three-phase power, and we're interconnecting directly onto the three-phase on Pilgrim Road. Usually we're trying to interconnect between a mile to a mile from our solar facility. So this one, the infrastructure is available. And then the other main factor is the substation. The substation here is about 3.5 miles back into town, down towards the river. And this project is going to be reconductoring the lines that are already existing. So we'll be adding a bigger cable to the lines, but the path is already existing. So we know where the power is going. We're just going to be upgrading the lines for this project. Next slide. So a little bit more of an overview on this parcel specifically. We have 2 parcels with Irish Eyes Farms. It's about 40.2 acres across those 2 parcels, but we're only going to be planning to use a little bit more than half of that for the solar facility. So about 21 acres for this 5 megawatt facility. Our service road is going to come off of Pilgrim Road. That is not existing today. We're going to be constructing that facility. It'll be a class 5 limestone road is the plan off of Pilgrim Road. And as far as the setbacks, we'll take a look at the plan in a second, but we're going to be 50 feet off of the right of way of Pilgrim Road to the north. And then we're 50 feet set back from all property lines of the parcel. And then it's 150 feet from all community buildings or non-participating residents, which we are exceeding in all cases here. So this is our site plan. And to the north for orientation is Pilgrim Road, where we will be interconnecting our facility. When we are constructing this, the plan is to have the semi trucks come off of Route 52 and then enter the facility on the access road that we're going to be constructing on Pilgrim Road. It's a little hard to see, but there's the brown line in the top left of the facility is where the interconnection is planned, as well as the access road. So that's where the project staging will be. There will be no storage on site. There will be a temporary laydown where all the materials are staged and construction begins from there in the mornings. There's not going to be any parking on any of the roads for the construction. All the parking will be within the facility. So there won't be any parking on Pilgrim Road. You do see the facility kind of split into 2 different subarrays here. There's a intermittent stream or a riverine that was delineated in our wetland delineation. So we are going to be set back from that 10 feet to all infrastructure. There's also a small wetland delineated in the bottom right and to the top in the middle there, where we're going to be set back at least 10 feet from all those wetlands. In blue, that is in talking with the Lee County Stormwater Conservation District. That is going to be a retention area for water on site, just to improve the runoff and make sure that there's no drainage issues, because it's very important to us that the site remains intact and that there's no runoff, because we're going to be operating this facility for 25 to 40 years. So we want to make sure that soil's intact and that we're being good stewards. The green onto the southeast, that is where the vegetative screening is going to be, consisting of sycamores and pines, coniferous trees that are not going to shed their leaves in the winter, to make sure that the residents at 541 Pilgrim Road is, their view shed is not going to be the solar farm, but is going to be of the vegetative screening there. We did have a non-participating residents to the southwest across Highway 52, but it was determined that the existing tree line was sufficient screening, as well as to the northeast, there's a household, but the kind of where the wetland runs down under the road, there's a significant amount of trees there. This site is another great example of kind of a good site for us, because there's no tree clearing here. We're not going to be cutting any trees, mostly because we're going to be set back from that basin. So this project's going to require minimal grading to get up and running. So it's a pretty plug and play site for us, which is good for just kind of how quickly we can get this thing up and running. Next slide, please. So we have a few different agreements as part of the permitting here, as part of meeting the ordinance. A drain tile survey has not been conducted to date. We contract with Huddleston McBride, is our drain tile survey expert here in Illinois. We will be providing that to the zoning administrator prior to a building permit. That also applies for a road use agreement. We're going to be doing a road use agreement with Palmyra Township. So that is another requirement that we will have to satisfy before we go in for our building permit. In addition, also the geotech and boring survey, just to make sure that the soil is going to be amenable for construction on site. Those will all be performed prior to our building permit. Our second bullet point is a noise level analysis was completed for this project. It concluded that this project would produce noise 10 decibels below the threshold for the Illinois Pollution Control Board. So this project is kind of more remote, and we're not foreseeing any noise disturbance as part of that study. February of 2024, we signed an AMA with the Illinois Department of Agriculture. That agreement states that we are committed to coming and cleaning up the project when it meets the end of its useful life and returning it to its natural state. As part of that, there's a decommissioning plan that's been provided as part of our application that kind of puts together the logistics and cost of what that would look like for us to come clean up that facility. And it also requires, if any drain tile, if identified, is damaged during construction, we will come out and replace that to its original state, so there's no impact to other farmers or other parcels nearby. We also did a study with the Federal Aviation Administration and their notice criteria tool. That study was terminated, and that no further coordination was required. This project is in the vicinity of the Dixon Municipal Airport, but the FAA tool decided that was conclusive that no further coordination was required with that agency. Also wanted to reiterate that the road use agreement will be entered to at least 30 days prior to our building permit and construction. And another piece of the Lee County ordinance, we understand and commit to the consulting fund with the county engineer, not to exceed $100,000 at the time of our building permit. That deposit will be made. Next slide, please. As part of our civil on site, we did a inquiry with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to look at the wetlands and determine, since we are set back at least 10 feet, that there is no impact to those wetlands. And we followed up with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, who does the Section 404 permit. And they were concluded that since there's no impact, no further interaction with that agency would be required as well. We also did a critical issues analysis, is what we call it, using the Illinois Department of Natural Resources ecological tool, also known as EcoCat. And there are no record of state listed species or Illinois nature preserves in the vicinity. There was a few species in our application that had the potential to be in the area, such as the long-eared bat and the monarch butterfly. But after further review, it was determined that that was highly unlikely, and the EcoCat was just going to be terminated. And then the last point is we did that 2018 LCSW, the Stormwater Conservation District of Lee County, to look at the Natural Resources Information Report. This project was a score of 220. I believe for the ordinance, anything under 225 is eligible for a building permit. It was part of the score on that report. And that concludes my presentation. Yep, all set. Thank you.
With regard to the PowerPoint you've been referencing, are you offering that as an exhibit into this case?
Yes, we can make this
All right.
available.
So we'll note the PowerPoint as petitioner's exhibit 1 at hearing. You've also referenced various documents, the Fish and Wildlife, the Soil and Water Conservation District, the AMA. Are those attached to your petition?
They are.
And are you offering a copy of your petition with all the attachments into evidence in this case?
We have provided previous copies. I don't have any more with me
No, I
today.
understand, but you're asking that they be part of the official record and be considered as evidence in this case.
Yes.
Any objections to those items being considered and admitted into evidence from the zoning board?
No objection.
Zoning administrator,
No.
county official,
No objection.
and there are no interested observers. Those will be admitted and considered as part of the evidence. Do the members of the zoning board have any questions of the witness?
I had one question. Can you bring up the plat map of the site? Along 52 on the southwest, the line there, the red line between there and the tree line. What's going to become of that strip? I assume that's farmland now.
Yeah, the plan is, honestly, that's up to our landowner. I think my expectation is that would be continued to be farmed, but that is kind of at his discretion what he wants to do with it. We also noted that there's going to be that space for access for the tenant farmer to maybe get his infrastructure back to the south end of the other parcel, but continue to be farmed is what I expect.
So you have no control over that strip?
We will not have control over that strip.
Okay. No further questions?
Yes, you had said you have several facilities that you build and a couple in operation. Have you ever tested the heat generated or anything on any of your operating ones? This has been a question of some people. What do you get when you've checked your temperature changes from solar?
We haven't checked the heat in a study, but we're definitely kind of, as part of this project as well, we're going to be coordinating with the Dixon Rural Fire Department to provide a fire protection plan. These projects kind of are on a lot of critical infrastructure, such as airports. So we're seeing a very low level of accidents, but want to make sure that we're coordinating with the fire department. But we don't expect that this project will be creating any excess heat because we're going to be absorbing most of it.
Are you using any batteries then on this?
This project is not going to have any battery storage.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from the zoning board?
You have 16 projects operational in Illinois. Do you have any of those operational with ComEd?
The 16 included our Minnesota projects, but we do have, I believe, 2 projects operational with ComEd at the moment.
What is the voltage on the ComEd 3-phase line that you're going to be interconnecting with?
That's a 12 kV or 12,000 volt 3-phase line on Pilgrim Road.
So where is the ComEd line going to be improved? From the internet connection point?
We're going to be reconductoring that line mostly along Highway 52, but it is the entire route is going to be reconductored at different phases. This project being a little bit older is in a more advanced state of interconnection study. So we have a pretty good grasp of what that looks like. And it's going to be executed. The interconnection agreement is going to be ready to be executed this quarter.
So it's going to be improved all the way to a substation in Dixon.
That's right.
And how do you spell your last name?
Sayles.
Thank you. That's it.
Please.
I forgot to ask you, you mentioned you called it low mow 4 to 6 times a year. Maybe explain that a little bit more, please.
Yep, we're going to be using kind of a native low mow mix that isn't going to be growing as quickly, just to make sure that we don't have to come out and mow multiple times a month. It's going to be much more attainable for the pollinators. Want to make sure that the native bees and other pollinators are going to have access to the site. So we don't want it getting too high for shading, and it's going to be a slower rate of growth than some other mixes in the market.
But you do expect to mow it 4 to 6 times a year?
I'd say we come out 4 to 6 times to check on the site, but usually 2 to 3 times mowing a year is kind of what's required.
I understand. Oh, okay, thank you. No further questions.
Any other questions from the zoning board? I'd say going once, going twice. Questions from the zoning administrator?
You said this was a community solar?
That's right.
Are you part of a lottery then with the state of Illinois to determine whose project gets built and whose doesn't?
This project will not be part of that lottery system. So capacity here, this project being in such a late stage of interconnection, this is a fairly de-risked project from that side of things. So we're fairly confident, if approved here tonight, this project will be getting built.
What is the anticipated life of the project?
We forecast this project will last 25 to 40 years. The modules last about 25 years. And we have potential for site access for up to 40.
Will you have a structural engineer certify that the community solar energy facility is within accepted professional standards and compliant with all state and county code requirements?
Yes, we will have a professional engineer certify that this project meets all applicable codes and standards before we go and pull our building permit.
Will there be any lighting with this project?
The lighting is anticipated around the transformer, cast downward with a 30-minute timer. It'll be low dim light, dark sky certified, but there will be a couple lights just to make sure that we can monitor the transformer.
You said it has a 30-minute timer. Is it like a sensor thing then? Is it going to come on and off? What determines?
Yep, so this project is remotely monitored. And if there was motion, if we had a person come out and check on our transformer, the light would be able to be turned on. And then that timer deactivate the lights within 30 minutes.
You said you plan to use an 8-foot cyclone fence. Will you provide the appropriate warning signage that is in accordance with the NESC and ANSI Z535 safety sign standards and OSHA regulations?
Yes, we do commit to those regulations, and the sign will have the voltage warnings as well as the local EMS 911 information posted on the gate.
Will there be company contact information? Will you have like a point of contact for your company listed as well?
There will be. We'll have the point of contact and secondary contact listed.
Will there be any visible reflective colored objects such as flags, plastic sleeves, reflectors, or tape for any guy wires that are a part of the project?
We don't anticipate any reflective objects. The guy wire may be installed. ComEd is still determining that at the point of interconnection. And if they do require guy wires, we will be putting the applicable reflective tape on those.
You did, was there comment provided from the State Historic Preservation Office?
As part of our EcoCat, it was determined that there was no historic landmarks within a mile of the facility. As part of the next stage of engineering, prior to our building permit, we will provide the State Historic Preservation Office study as a archaeologist will come out to the site and verify that.
Does the petitioner commit to providing as-built map, site plans, and engineering plans for the project to the Lee County Zoning Administrator and Lee County Supervisor of Assessment within 60 days of completion of construction?
Yes, we will provide all that documentation within 2 months of construction.
What are the proposed construction times?
I believe 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. is the construction window.
Does the petitioner commit to removing all solid waste related to the construction, operation, maintenance of the project promptly and to dispose of the same in compliance with all federal, state, and local laws?
Yes, all refuse will be removed.
Will there be any hazardous materials stored on site?
No hazardous materials stored on site.
Does the petitioner commit to maintaining with the Lee County Zoning Administrator and the Lee County Sheriff's Department a primary point of contact with 2 secondary points of contact?
Yes, we will provide that contact information.
I believe that is all.
Any questions from the county?
No questions.
Just a follow-up question from me for clarification. Exhibit K to your petition is the site lease, memorandum of site lease agreement. It lists the agreement between Irish Farms LLC and Solarstone Illinois LLC. The petition in this case is filed by Woosung Solar LLC. Can you describe for the record the relationship between Woosung Solar LLC and Solarstone?
Woosung Solar is a wholly owned subsidiary of Solarstone, Illinois, and Solarstone, Illinois is a wholly owned subsidiary of Solarstone Development, LLC.
And during the life of this project, does Solarstone intend to keep the project, run the project, and maintain the project?
Our business model, in particular this project, will be likely transferred to a financier at the time of construction.
Any further questions based on either my questions or the zoning administrator's questions from the zoning board? All right, seeing none, do you have any response comments you want to make based on the questions that were asked of you?
No responses at this time. Thank you for your time.
Okay. You can step down. And do you have any further witnesses?
No further witnesses.
There are no interested parties for witnesses. Are there any witnesses from the county that haven't yet testified?
No.
No witnesses from the county. Anything further from the members of the zoning board? All right, so at this point, it would be an opportunity for you and you can do it from here or over there, since you're no longer under oath as a witness. Any final comments or conclusory remarks you want to make?
I just wanted to note, because I did foresee this question may arise, that this project was initially developed in the county in 2018 and was heard roughly 6 months ago. That application was deemed, in my eyes, incomplete because it was missing the noise ordinance, as well as the FAA notice criteria tool was not clear. My goal here today is to kind of illustrate that we have a complete application, and that is why we're back 6 months after that original petition.
Thank you very much. Any closing comments that members of the zoning board want to make at the public hearing? No. There are no interested observers, interested parties. There are no interested parties online. Any conclusions or closing remarks that the zoning administrator wishes to make?
No, thank you.
County?
None.
Okay. Petitioner, have any additional rebuttal or final evidence that you have?
No further evidence at this time.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, this now concludes the public hearing portion of this process. All parties have presented information or evidence as they deem appropriate or to be considered. It would simply be a matter for the zoning board now to schedule an evening, I think we have it on the calendar, for going through the findings of fact. So I'll turn it back over to you for that scheduling conversation if you want, but I think we're set for next Wednesday.
We're set for next Wednesday and
Okay. From those members of the zoning board, based on the last findings of fact that we did that process and layout and the, I guess, preliminary model work well, or do you want something different?
work well.
And we'll try to follow that same process.
Okay.
I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
I think the
Motion to recess until,
motion to recess till next Wednesday.
I move to recess till next Wednesday.
You have a second?
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
and
Recessed.
just to clarify, that will be at 7 PM next Wednesday.
Correct.
Thank you.